I want to talk about online lending. People will spend more time researching the plane ticket that they're going to buy or the hotel that they're going to stay in or where they're eating than they spend time vetting a realtor, let alone a lender. Ask questions, figure out what is going to be best for your situation. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Land and Home Show. I'm Stephen J.B. Davis, your land specialist and residential realtor here in Central Kentucky and beyond. I'm going to try to make this quick. This isn't a never use an online lender, but this is a ask questions, figure out what is going to be best for your situation. There are merits to using places that get you things fast. I think sometimes speed is maybe a little bit overvalued because the quality of a process can suffer from the speed that you initially get, which is often why people choose these places, but they're not all in themselves bad. However, what you have to think about now as a buyer is the perceptions of this NAR settlement, which if you haven't watched my other two videos on what that settlement was, how we got there, all of that. If you haven't watched it, I'd encourage you to. The reality of that settlement is there are going to be there's the truth about what all of these changes mean and how they are to be enacted, and then there are an amalgam of other opinions, perceptions, understandings, fluencies around what is actually true about this settlement. And so understand what your role is as a buyer and what you need as a buyer. Buyers, as I stated in the last two videos, have always been able to pay commissions, meaning it's always been permitted for a buyer to pay any, all, some, none of the commission from their own pocket outside of the purchase price. But there will be more sellers who are saying we're not offering anything, not in the cooperation compensation thing with the broker, and not from our own, like, we're just not offering. So where does that leave you as a buyer? And this is why a lender is important. So there are four key themes that if you're going to engage a lender who is more of that online format, I've got an app that, everything happens on the app, etc., then you should be asking some questions about these four things to whoever it is that you end up being in contact with. What I find, just a quick aside, what is bewildering to me is that people will spend more time researching the plane ticket that they're going to buy for vacation or the hotel that they're going to stay in or where they're eating on a date next week than they spend time vetting a realtor, let alone a lender where they're going to be spending money with that lender for years on end, or at least spending a lot of money with whoever buys your mortgage for years on end. So, if you're really into speed, but are otherwise a person who likes to save $50 on a plane ticket, by all means, try to save yourself thousands, let alone heartache, by understanding how these places work before you say yes, because you may determine this is great for me, and that's fine. But you need to ask the right questions to determine that, especially in this new world. So the first thing is communication. There are bad local lenders that don't communicate well or whatever, but the way that a lot of the more online sort of world of lenders are set up are you get kind of a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 type of format, where if it's after 5, you're not going to be able to reach anyone. And I know this from experience. I work with buyers every day. I had kind of a nightmare situation in June because of the lender that my buyer was working with. And it was tough. Getting answers was very frustrating, and it's not uncommon. It's very corporate, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, otherwise you're waiting to Monday. And as you probably know, in the home buying process, things are time sensitive. The other thing, though, about communication that can sometimes be true with the more online format is that you are stuck with a myriad of people, but you don't know what their role is. Like you email the person that you started talking to, but they're just kind of the face. But then actually the person that's doing your loan may be over here, and there's some other person that's kind of tag teaming on the loan, but isn't quite a processor. Like you have this group of people with a very amorphous definition of what each of them do and who you call for various questions that you will inevitably have. So ask questions when you talk to that initial person. How do you communicate? How do I get a hold of you? Is it a direct number, or is it a number that I'm going to have to be on hold for to get connected for 20 minutes, which was actually my most recent experience. I was appalled. I could never talk to anyone. It was like I was trying to get my dishwasher fixed, but this was obviously way more serious. So what is the style of communication? What is the method of communication? Will I be able to reach you at 6 p.m. or is it like next business day, we'll get back to you, hopefully. And yeah, that's a huge deal. The second thing is transparency. Transparency is a big one. A lot of times people contact the online format, or like how people say fast fashion, I'll call them fast lenders. They contact them because they see the Super Bowl commercial, they see the commercial during the basketball game, during whatever it is they're watching, or as they're scrolling on Instagram or Facebook, and they see like a very enticing lending deal, like, oh, I only have to put this much down and like I get this much back as a credit, like, and it's great, it's all great. Ask about what that actually means for you. Those terms may only be for the 800 credit score kind of borrower, or they may be for any borrower. That word always gets me. It could be for any borrower, as long as they have $10,000 or $15,000 to buy down an interest rate. There are things like that you're going to want to know ahead of time. And to couple with that idea is sometimes with these lenders, not all, but sometimes with these types of lenders, you don't find out about those out-of-pocket costs until you're 3-4 weeks into being under contract. And you finally see an estimate of what it is you're going to have to bring to the table. That is a really unpleasant surprise. And if you're not transparent about that up front, like, you can find yourself in a really unpleasant situation where you're either trying to get out of a contract, or you're trying to make other arrangements to come up with cash that you didn't really plan on spending, or maybe that you actually don't have. And also, oh, by the way, in the context where you thought you'd have money to pay your buyer's representative, if that's the particular type of transaction you're in, well, now if you've got to buy down a rate in order to get the rate that you saw on TV, like, now you're trying to have a hard conversation with your buyer's rep, like, hey, I don't think I can pay you. So like you're spitting yourself potentially into some really compromising situations that won't be fun for anybody. So in the interest of transparency, ask them about, what can you provide me a loan estimate? Can you let me know this thing I saw on television? What are the terms of getting that deal? Is that money out of my pocket? Is it what is it? How do I get it? Is it my credit worthiness? Whatever. The third thing is access. This is not really something that you need to ask about. It's just something that you need to know. There's no USAA, Rocket Mortgage, Quicken Loans, Bankrate. None of these folks have access to the types of local and statewide funds that exist in various markets for first-time home buyers. Now, they might have their own product, which usually costs you some extra money. They may have their own loan products that help to assist you with that. But if you're talking about like grants and welcome home funds or Kentucky Housing Corporation funds that are available to borrowers that meet certain criteria, those fast lenders or those online types of format lenders don't have access to that type of thing. And again, depending on your situation of the type of liquid cash that you have and the potential for you to have to come out of pocket, independent of borrowing money in order to pay your buyer's representative. That type of distinction may be really important to you. Being able to have access to funds like that, or to being able to apply to funds like that, can free up some of that liquid cash so you can pay someone else, or so that you have more money for closing costs, or what have you. But none of those faster online people have that kind of access. So not a question, but just a note. And I've now lost my, I don't want to restart. I've lost my place. Come on. The last thing is also not a question, just a word of advice to ask them to put it in writing. You may talk with someone on the phone and say, oh, so and so that they give me 6%. Okay, well, did they write that down? Because if you've not had any sort of credit check or turn in any sorts of paperwork to solidify that you qualify for that 6% or whatever the rate is in the future, 7, 5.5, whatever, then those are just words. That is all it is. This is a business transaction. As emotional as it is for you to walk through the door and love a place, or walk onto a piece of land and love the view, it has to be in writing. In the same way that your offer does. You don't say, hey, Mr. Seller, I love this place. I'll give you X amount of dollars for it. They're going to say, yeah, well, okay, write that down and sign a piece of paper. And so you need a piece of paper or an email or a PDF that commits that lender to you. And sometimes a really feel-good conversation is how a lot of people get excited about sticking with that lender. And then the last piece of advice that I have is, if your pre-approval takes 5 minutes, go the other way. Seriously. Not all of these lenders are the same when I'm talking about the fast lending. Some of them will take a day, and they might run it through a couple steps of underwriting, which is great. That time is worth it. Again, you don't want to show up with the pre-approval for $600,000, put in your offer, and then once you actually get down to the nitty-gritty of submitting documents that more boots on the ground lenders generally require, you find out actually you're only pre-approved for $100,000 less than that. Well, you're under contract, and so you're depending on the temperament of that seller and that listing agent. There may be a fight about your escrow money. There may be for you to get out of the deal with it. There may be mediation. They may say, okay, fine, we'll go on to the next one. Who knows? But you don't want to be in a place where you're under contract because you got a really quick piece of paper that didn't really dig deep enough into some obvious parts of your finances that could have told you with just a few more hours of waiting that, okay, this is a very safe number. This is your ceiling. We know that we can confidently give you this much money or lend you this much money when you go out to the marketplace and decide to offer on something. If you've got great credit, a lender once told me, and you're ready to do stuff like buy a house, it's there to be used. So if you're afraid of someone doing a credit pull on you, then either you've got some borderline credit, or maybe you're not really that ready to buy a house, because you're gonna have to. There will be credit checks. There will be more than one to figure out your credit worthiness, and ultimately to approve you for a loan, and to discover any things that would make you a risky lending option for that lender. Your good credit is there to be used responsibly, but it's there to be used. And so in that pre-approval step, use the credit. Vet some of these places before you even ask for a pre-approval. See if you like the way they communicate, all that kind of stuff, and maybe get pre-approved with just 2 of the best choices for you. I'm not saying to go get pre-approved in 10 different places, but 2 or 3 pre-approvals, especially if you're pretty dang on good on your credit end, that's not going to wreck your chances of getting a home. So yeah, ask questions, figure out who works for you, how they're going to work for you, how they communicate with you, the transparency behind the shiny deal that you saw in the commercial or the Instagram ad, and understand that if you need access to extra funds or grants or things, that those are not going to be available to you if you use more of the fast lenders that have become popular and do work for some people. What works for you may not work for this person, may not work for that person, but it is up to you to ask questions ahead of time before you're hundreds of thousands of dollars borrowed, to know that. All right? That's all I got for you. I hope this helps. Go forth, be happy, be merry, all those things. Maybe have a glass of whiskey for me if you're of the drinking variety. And I'll see you later.